we'll get started with the Lafayette game. Again, watching it the other night, and again going back over a couple of things. A lot of it stays the same from what I kind of said post game. Again, some frustration about not being able to run the ball the way that we need to from an efficiency standpoint. Certainly, I do think, and I know that one of the questions was asked the other night, I do think Seth Schumann played well. I thought that Seth really battled. There are times and opportunities where he does have a good bit of pressure and things like that, where he's able to step up in the pocket and make some big throws. I certainly think that the offensive staff did put together an opportunity for him and our receivers to be successful with some of the quick game that we had in. And those, again, are not necessarily things that we've had just a tremendous amount in throughout the season. But I do think he battled and played well. From a defensive standpoint, again, we didn't do a very good job of defending the run game, period. Gave up some explosive plays in the throwing game as well. And, really frustrating after feeling like you had played really well from a passing standpoint the week before at Ole Miss, and it challenged, again, what we felt like some of the best receivers. One of the better receiver groups in the country. I do think that there are again, our special teams continues to be a positive thing for us. Obviously, the block kick, fake punt are positive things, but again, we continue to be a little bit erratic. Our punter, really doesn't give us a chance on 2 different punts in the game the other night, but has performed and been solid throughout the season. And again, we've got to be more consistent on that. And then going back to the 2-point play, again, timing down by 12, trying to find a way to get it to 10, and then don't execute the way that we need to. And again, probably a poor decision on my part at the same time. As we move forward, again, playing Georgia State, rivalry game, and again, great opportunity and big deal for us. Obviously going back to Atlanta, I know it's been difficult for our fan base. We've had 2 straight Thursday night home games, and certainly when we played at Georgia Tech earlier this year, I thought that our fan base did a tremendous job being there, and we're very appreciative of that. Hopefully we can be able to match that this weekend and on Saturday. And obviously Atlanta being where our largest alumni base comes from, and looking forward to being able to see everybody there and to be able to perform. Obviously Georgia State, with what they do offensively, we've got to make sure again that we get back into making sure that we're crossing all our T's, dotting our I's, getting back into some of the base stuff and trying to get back to playing how we really did at times the last 4 weeks, but really into a lot of the things that we played from a base standpoint the first couple weeks of the season, despite some of our injuries. From an offensive standpoint, again, hoping getting a little bit healthier this week, we feel like, or hope to be able to, and be able to get back to doing what we do a little bit more, and again, trying to make sure that we're able to find ways to manufacture again and continue to try to build off of some of the things that we were able to do in the throw game, but get back to what we are, which is a running team. All right, so with that, any questions that y'all have got?
Coach, you mentioned Seth Schumann, who looked impressive on a couple drives. Yeah. That said, can you update us on the status of Kevin and Fabian for Saturday's game?
We're hoping to have both of them. We really are. And again, I think that Kevin's probably a little bit farther along than Fabian is right now, but we're hoping to have all of them. Seth's a little bit, as I spoke about the other day, he's a little bit dinged up from the other night still, but hopefully we'll be able to have all 3 of them, to be honest with you. That's what we're hoping and planning for.
With Georgia State making a coaching change, does that change any dynamics about this game? You anticipate them maybe doing a few things differently, tweaking some things?
Well, it gets hard, you can't do anything but go off of the tape, obviously. Really tough with Coach Miles, particularly after last year and being able to take Georgia State to their first bowl game last year and finishing up the season that they did. And, you got to prepare for what they do. And I certainly don't think that there will be drastic changes this late in the season with an offense. Maybe some wrinkles here or there, maybe a change here or there. Offensively, I don't anticipate there being very much different from a defensive standpoint or a special team standpoint, but there certainly may be, and we've got to be prepared for those things. We've tried to go through, by now we're usually not to a point where we've been through every game throughout the season. We've tried to go ahead and get ahead and be on top of that, particularly for what you just said and the reason that we've done it. So, we're trying to make sure that we get all those things covered. And again, having played on a Thursday night 2 of the last 3 weeks, this may feel like a really long week for us, and may have a little bit more opportunity than we're kind of used to all of a sudden to be able to prepare.
Coach, are you afraid at all of losing some of the fans the way things have been going this season?
You know,
you looked up there Thursday, you had to have seen fourth quarter, you guys were only a touchdown away, and there was really hardly anybody there.
Yeah, I didn't notice it, you know. I've certainly, you know, seen different things, and I've certainly heard people that are frustrated. There's no question about that. You know, I hope not, and that's all I can sit here and say.
What would you tell them? I mean, if they approached you, which I think at sometimes you've said people have.
Sure.
What do you tell them to reassure them?
Well, I think the big thing is that, again, we're sitting here through a thing right now that's really difficult. It is. It's a piece that, you know, particularly for me as a head coach, for our fan base, for our seniors, and for our players and our coaching staff, it's hard to feel like really, you know, that you've been in. With the exception of the fourth quarter of App State, you feel like you're in games. You feel like you're sitting there playing and performing, you know, and there have been a number of things that have been challenging from an injury standpoint. Trying to run the offense the way that you'd like to has been difficult to be able to kind of jump in and out of some of the things we've had to do because of the quarterbacks and their injuries. But again, I don't want to sit here and make excuses. At the end of the day, what I hope our fan base believes in is that we're going to sit here and take these 2 weeks in our bowl game, and we're going to do everything we can to fight our butt off. There's not going to be 1 second of the day, not 1 second of the night, that I and our staff are not working our tails off to get these kids prepared the best way that they can be. There's certainly mistakes, and there's certainly things that, again, we've got to continue to work on, get corrected, things that we've got to add, wrinkles we've got to add, answers we've got to have that are better than the ones we had last week. And again, it becomes hard sometimes. And again, you don't want to be in a world where you're just having to make excuses, but there are times where things are difficult being the third head coach in 4 years and trying to make sure that, again, you've got a senior class that understands how much you do care about them and how much you're trying to make sure that you're trying to give them the best opportunity that you can to be successful. You know, from a fan standpoint, I understand their frustration. I certainly understand the tradition here. I certainly understand every piece of what they want and what they expect from a winning standpoint, and I promise you in my time here that I'll be able to get that. And I'm the most disappointed there is of anybody that we haven't been able to do that through the first 10 games of the season.
Of course, you still have an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You keep saying that, but the window's closing little by little.
Sure.
You've got to win this next game. Do you feel any pressure to win these next 2 games, or is it no different than any other time?
Oh, I think that there's pressure every game. You know, when you go in and you expect to try to win and expect to win every game that you're in, and you expect to be able to give your players the best opportunity that you can to be winning, there is pressure. If I'm not in a situation where I'm not applying the most pressure to me, to our staff, and to our players, then I'm not in the right role. And I've certainly got to be the person to continue to do that. That pressure is one of the things that I enjoy most about Georgia Southern, you know, and again, I've been at places where you won and won consistently, and there's a tremendous amount of pressure. I've been places where they haven't won and people didn't care as much. There wasn't as much passion, and that's the beauty of being here. It's not something that I take lightly. It's certainly not something that I'm running from. It's something that I understand I've got to continue to do a better job, and I've got to be able to find things each week to continue to motivate our players to get them to do the right thing.
You feel like you still have the seniors, everybody's still on the same page?
I do.
Everybody's
I do. And again, I don't, you know, I think that, again, just as you go through it, I think that it would be obvious if it wasn't, you know, and a lot of times what happens is you see, you know, a number of different things that wind up happening, and we're certainly trying to make sure that none of those things are, and certainly trying to communicate the way that we need to with everybody. Our players and our staff, we're frustrated. We want to win, and we don't want to be in a situation where, you know, where we're coming up just short, you know, over 2, 3, 4 plays, or because we weren't able to get something accomplished in our game plan that we had been sought out to do.
Game plan for Georgia State? Anything in particular?
Well, I mean, not anything I necessarily want to try to give away, but I mean, the big thing that we've got to do is get back. Start with the thing that that we didn't do well the other night, which is defense. Didn't play well, and some of the things again, it sounds like but we don't have much depth at linebacker, and so we've tried to play in some of those nickel looks, and that's really not what we've done very much of until the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's forced us into playing a little bit different coverage. And we want to get back to doing what we do base, and get back to what we've tried to do through a big part of the year, and get back and try to have some of those guys in position that they can sit there and do it. And if we don't have the depth that we need to, we'll get to it as we come a little bit more. But we're going to play with the best 3 linebackers we can play as much as we can play with them, and as long as that injuries will keep or allow us to do that. And we've got to be able to tackle. We didn't tackle well the other night. We didn't see guard pulls very well the other night, and we've certainly got to get into some of the things that people are doing to us from a self-scout standpoint, and take a period today and work those things that have come up for 3 or 4 weeks. Obviously, the quarterback run game, we've got to have a better answer and a quicker answer to some things. We certainly know what we want to be able to do there and what gives us the best opportunity, but we didn't get into it soon enough the other night. It really hurt us. Offensively, I think it becomes the same thing. We get a little bit fresher legs and got some guys that can sit there and help us run the offense the way that we want to, and be able to try to sit there and take advantage of some of the number counts that they do have.
Do you feel like the Sun Belt teams are more prepared for you guys? You played well against Ole Miss. You played pretty well against Georgia Tech. Does it seem like these Sun Belt teams are a little more, I don't know if prepared, but they seem to give you guys a little more trouble?
Sure. Well, it's it's been a long time, but I think I've mentioned this before. In some regards, it's third year seeing a similar version of this offense. Obviously, not the exact same one or the same people, but some of them's third year seeing it, or sometimes it's our first year seeing some of the things they have. So I certainly think that there's a piece to that, and there's other teams in our league that certainly run pieces of what we do, or have adapted into certain things of what we do from a base standpoint on our offense that is being run on other phases of the league. So I certainly do, but and their plan is to take away the run. Obviously, I mean that's what it comes down to, and some of those things that have given us trouble through not just this year but through the years are continue to kind of sneak their head up in there, and we've got to do a better job of having answers for those looks.